All right, guys and gals. Thought I'd do a little bit of a self-defense ammo, not really a test or maybe a comparison, because I'm not actually testing this ammo. Someone else already has. I've gathered the information together on all the what I would consider to be the most popular 40 Smith & Wesson self-defense rounds. These are all jacketed hollow point rounds, and they were all tested by TN Outdoors 9. Now, he doesn't know me from Adam or anything. I've just watched his videos on YouTube, watched him test all these rounds, went through and wrote down the penetration of them, of each one, and the grain, and everything. So he really did all the legwork, as far as the shooting and testing the bullets. And I just kind of went through and documented his findings. So, I really like his channel. If you haven't checked him out, it's TN Outdoors 9. The TN stands for Tennessee, so it's like Tennessee Outdoors 9. Seems to be a great guy. I'm in North Carolina. He's in Tennessee. I've never met him, but I watched a lot of his videos, and I really like him, and did a lot of good ammo tests. And I have tested some of these rounds my own, not with ballistics gel, with weird things, whatever I could shoot through. I mean, if you've seen one of my videos, we did taped up magazines with denim, water jugs, just anything we can find. So, not real scientific, but his stuff is ballistics gel stuff. So, fairly, scientific, fairly good comparison to what I'm doing soft tissue. Now, if it encounters bone or something, or there's a barrier or something like that, it's hard to tell what a bullet's going to do in a situation like that. It could, depend on how much bone it hits, or, what the barrier's made out of, how thick it is. All that plays into effect. So you can only take this for what it's worth, which is, soft tissue penetration. So, and we'll kind of go over expansion too. But maybe one day I'll do it for 9mm and 380 or something, maybe some other rounds, 45. But now we're just going to do 40. So if you carry a 40, if you're in law enforcement, there's a really, really good chance you carry a 40 caliber, especially something like this, the Glock 23, or probably the Glock 22, actually. So, and if you're just a concealed carry person, you may actually carry the Glock 27, which is the little brother of this. Now, and most of these bullets were shot, TN Outdoors 9, when he did his test, did them from either a Glock 22 or a 23. So 22 you're probably going to get a little bit more velocity out of, because it's got a little bit longer barrel, but it should be close. This should be a good idea. If you're doing it out of a 27 or a smaller barreled gun, you might expect a little less than this, but it's a pretty good idea of what you'll get. I went through and documented, probably 3-4 different brands of bullets, and then a couple different grains in each one, and even a couple different series in a couple. This is what I'm personally carrying, the Winchester PDX. I was carrying the 180 grain. I recently switched to the 165. I mean, no real reason for that, except this ammo is newer and I like to carry new ammo. I don't really like to carry old ammo. In my spare magazine, I'm carrying the 180. But this is all I've got right now. I need to get some more and stock up on some, but just mainly because this was newer and that was all they had, and I've shot it, and it shoots well, and from what I've seen, the penetration is good on it. So we'll start with the PDX, since that's what I'm currently using. The PDX 40 Smith & Wesson 165 grain penetrated 16 inches. The FBI, if we can remember, and this is all done with, either a SIM test, which is calibrated for ballistics gel, or 10% ballistics gel, which is kind of an FBI standard with 4 layers of denim, to simulate some of the thicker clothing people might be wearing. I know some people may just be wearing a t-shirt, some people might be wearing thick coats, depends on where you live, time of year it is, that kind of thing. The 165 grain penetrated 16 inches. That's good. I like to see about 15 inches. The FBI calls for 12 to 18 is, I think, they're what they call for. I guess over 18 they consider over penetration, and then anything under 12 is not, under penetration, I guess. But they want 12 to 18. I like to see at least 13. I feel better with about 15. So 16 is good for me. That works. I like that. No problem at all. So that works great for me, and it expanded well too in his videos. Go watch his videos. And anytime I've shot it, it's expanded well, stayed together. It's a bonded bullet, so it should. And now it's not as sharp as the Ranger T series, but it's a very similar pattern when it opens up. It does what it's supposed to do. Now, the 180 grain, from what I can tell, I could not find a video of him testing that in ballistics gel or sim test. He did it in like a wet newspaper media type test. So I didn't go with his on that. I went with someone else I found, and I searched a couple, and this is kind of an average I got from watching a couple other videos on it. 180 grain penetrated about 18 inches, which is 2 inches more than the 165. And that's great too. That's right at the FBI's maximum or whatever. So that's great too. Either one of those would be suited well. You'd be fine with either one of those. And this is since the only one I've got, I'll kind of show you what they look like. It's a good looking bullet. Got a good looking hollow point. It's premium ammunition. It's great stuff. That's the 180. You really can't tell much of a difference, except this one looks shinier because it's newer. But it's 165 here. So the Hornady, Hornady Critical Duty, which is kind of a newer thing for Hornady. They had the Critical Defense, not to be confused with that, but the Critical Duty 175 grain, and that's one thing about Hornady. You'll notice that their grain of bullet is kind of an odd grain compared to some of the others. It'll be kind of a mix between, maybe heavy for caliber and then like a medium. It'll be kind of in between that. So it's a 175 grain, and it penetrated 15 1/4 inches, and that's fine with me too. And one thing you'll notice about the Hornady stuff is it doesn't mushroom out as much as some of the others. It mushrooms out and everything, but it's really made more for penetration and to hold together, which is good. That's good. So you've got to take this information and apply it to what you think you're going to need or what you're going to need. I mean, you don't always know what you're going to need, but it's your responsibility to figure out, do you want a lot of penetration, not a lot of penetration? That's up to you, and I'm just giving you the information for you to make your decision. The Hornady TAP FPD 155 grain penetrated 18 1/2 inches, so that's a good bit. The Critical Defense, which is one of their older ones, 165 grain penetrated 15 inches. So they all penetrated over the FBI's minimum. So that's fine. They all mushroomed out well, and they all held together well, but not mushrooming out to the extent of some of the others. I'm not sure if they're bonded. The Critical Duty may be a bonded bullet or kind of similar to one. I don't know if the others are. I'm really not sure, but they all held together, so they act like a bonded bullet, I guess. The Gold Dot by Speer, Gold Dot Hollow Point, which is it's kind of a second favorite to mine. If I can't find the PDX, I'll go for Gold Dot, just because their histories, they have a solid history with bullet making, and every one I've ever tested held together well and penetrated well, which is the two main things that matter. But the Gold Dot and the 155 grain only penetrated 11 1/8 inches, so that's not quite the FBI minimum. But they all stayed together well and all mushroomed out well, okay? And the Gold Dot is a bonded bullet. The 165 grain went 14 inches and 5/8 inches. 14 5/8 inches, so that's good. The 180 grain did a little less at 13 5/8 inches. So Moving on to Federal. I used to like the HydroShock. It's been around for a long time too, and it's been around so long, and so many people have used it that a lot of people have really good reports with it, and some people have really bad ones. It's just been so well used by so many people that you're bound to going to get some bad results from it, just because there's so much of it out there. And some of it could have been worst case scenario stuff, of it, jacket separation and things like that, or whatever. But they've got a newer bullet out, Federal does, called the HST, which is kind of supposed to take the place of the HydroShock, but the HydroShock, they're still making the HydroShock, so maybe it's just an alternative to that. But it's a great bullet too. I have personally not got to shoot any of the HST yet. I'd like to, but I just haven't got any yet. And from what I've seen, it's done well too. The 135 grain, which is light for caliber in a 40, penetrated 10 and 1/2 inches. So that's really not enough for me. Probably wouldn't carry that grain. The 165 did 16 and 1/2 inches. So that's more where I like it. So I would not have a problem carrying that. The 180 grain only went 13 inches, which is still fine too. It's over the 12, and that's kind of at the minimum what I want. It's 13. So that's fine. Like I said, this is all up to you on how much penetration you want. The Winchester Ranger T Series, which is a very popular law enforcement ammunition, in the 165 grain, it only went 11 3/8 inches, which that's right under the FBI minimum. I couldn't find anything, and I may look again for the 180 grain T Series, because I feel like that's probably more what law enforcement agencies use. Is 180 grain, but I couldn't find any. So it may do better. It could. I'm not sure. But I'll tell you one thing about the Ranger T Series that I don't like. Anytime I've had a T Series, Winchester Ranger T Series ammunition, it doesn't shoot well for me. And I'm a fairly decent shooter. I mean, I know how to shoot. I've shot for years. I've had, training shooting, and everything else, and I've just shot for a long time, and I'm pretty decent at it. I'm not the best, but, and I can shoot other bullets well, but then you put one of those in my gun, it shoots weird for me. It just never shoots where it should. I remember one time I was shooting a Ranger T Series in a 45, and I mean, I had to get stupid close to what I was shooting to actually hit where I was aiming. So I have no idea why it is with that ammo. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know the reason. Maybe nobody else has ever had that problem with it. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I've just had some bad ones. I don't know. But it's not something I would go for just because of the fact that I've had bad experience shooting it. And if you go and watch T and Outdoors 9 video on him shooting the 165 grain T Series, he shoots it really low and left. And I know what some of you are thinking, well, low and left, you're probably, you're not pulling the trigger right, the way you should, and you're probably pulling the gun low and left. You do that if you have a, poor trigger pull, if you're really hooking that trigger and not just using the pad of your finger. If you're really hooking your finger in there, you can pull it low and left. It's very classic beginner mistake of someone shooting. But he's not a beginner at shooting. He's done this for a while. He's he probably has 10 or 15 years age on me. So, and I've been shooting for pistols for probably 8 or 9 years, and guns in general for longer than that. But so I don't think it's a shooter. The shooter, I think it's got something to do with the ammo. So me personally, I'll stay away from it just for that reason. But I will tell you this: the T Series, when that thing expands, it's basically it's basically the Black Talon. If you remember the Black Talon from the 90s, 80s, 90s, it was a it was a hollow point bullet coated in like a black, I don't know, if like a Teflon, I don't know what it was. It was supposed to help fouling, not foul off the barrel or something, or be easier on barrels, I think was the whole reason they did it. But it got a bad rep in the 90s for being this like really deadly, awful round or something in the media. But I mean, it's no different than any other bullet. It just had a cool name and looked cool. But it's basically the same bullet. It's just not black. And it just still has those kind of talons to it, and they're sharp. It's a really cool looking bullet when it's fully expanded. Very similar to the PDX, but sharper. So, in conclusion to all this, because I threw a lot of information out there at you, and if you weren't writing it down, you're probably like, well, I don't remember what he said. Let me kind of go, except for in the PDX, in most cases, the lighter grain bullets did better, and sometimes that's not always the case. Sometimes the heavier ones penetrate soft tissue better, but in this case especially, the 165 grain did really well with penetration. The Gold Dot, the 165 penetrated the furthest. In the Federal, the 165 penetrated the farthest. Now in the Hornady, depends. See, these were different bullets, so I don't know if it's a fair comparison with those, because I mean the critical defense and the critical duty look similar, but they are different. And the TAP FPD is what you're used to seeing in a hollow point. It's an actual hollow point, whereas the other two have the polymer tip in the hollow point. So I don't know if it's a fair comparison. In the Hornady, the 155 grain in the TAP FPD penetrated furthest. So I don't know. And then basically the 175 and the 165, 175 in the critical duty and 165 in the critical defense basically penetrated the same, within 1/4 of an inch. So I don't know. I've heard and read other people talking about how 180 grain 40 can't be loaded quite as hot because of the bullet depth or something, and I mean, I'm just taking their word for it. I honestly don't know. I've never hand loaded any of this stuff. And they're saying that more light for caliber in 40 is better. That may be true. I mean, if you go lighter for caliber, you're going to be shooting it faster, which isn't always the best thing. Generally, when you're shooting soft tissue, if you're shooting a light, fast hollow point, a lot of times it'll hit it really hard, and it'll just disperse all of its energy really soon and mushroom out really big, but it doesn't penetrate very far. And then in a slower, heavier round, it'll still mushroom out and it still hits hard, but just doesn't dump all its energy at once and penetrates further. So generally, there's all kinds of variables and things, and that's just kind of a general of what description of what happens. So take it for what it's worth. Think about what you need personally, what you're looking for. I mean, you want to have enough penetration to stop the threat, to be able to reach a vital organ or central nervous system or something. But you don't want so much that you hit an innocent bystander, or if you're in your home or something, that penetrate through the wall and hit one of your kids or something. I mean, that would be awful. So that's something you've got to think about, and maybe even do some tests of your own if you have a place to shoot, or land or somewhere where you can do that, or look up these videos and see. Some people are smaller than others, some are bigger, so it's hard to say what you'll need. It's hard to say, and I can't tell you, and that's your decision to make. So I hope you make the right one. I hope you never have to use your gun. But there may be one day when you do, and I hope you're prepared, and having the right ammo, the right gun. You know how to shoot it well. That's the biggest thing. You really need to know how to shoot your gun, and have a gun that you can shoot well. Not everybody can shoot 40 well. For some people, 40 is a little bit snappy. For me, it's fine. I can shoot 9mm a little better though, but I can shoot 40 pretty good too. So I generally carry 40 or 45 gap, so I can shoot both of them fairly well. So it's no problem. And I think they're both great rounds. So hopefully I'll do a video maybe on a different caliber, 9mm maybe, 45 gap, 45 ACP, 380, something like that, soon, as far as different bullets, and their grain and their penetration and everything. So thanks for watching. Like I said, go check out TN Outdoors 9. He has a lot of personal defense ammo videos. They're cool to watch, fun to watch, very informative. I really enjoy his channel. So thanks to him for doing what he does. And I think that'll be it. See you guys next time.